So glad you could join us today to have a very important conversation about things that people in society are asking all the time. What do we do with Israel? How do we handle the criticism against Israel? Can we trust who Israel is today? What does the Bible say? What should our position be? And I'm so honored to host a conversation with Scott Volk and with Lee Cummings. So we're going to jump into it today.
Something that I'm getting a lot of is, well, how does God feel about Gaza? There's thousands of people in Gaza who have perished because of this war. And it's interesting because when I hear people talking, they don't talk about October 7th. Mm-hmm. They don't talk about what happened on that day when bodies were burned and ravaged and things I don't even want to say on right now. But it was horrific. Filmed, displayed for the world, horrific. Israel, they'll drop leaflets to let people know, hey, listen, if you're living in this area, you got to get out of here. But yet I sat with Nathan just the other night at a party for a birthday party for somebody we were going to be praying over. And we sit down to eat, and this strong believer who I love, young man in his 30s, says, Scott, let me ask you this question. What do you love God, you love Israel. What about all that's going on in Gaza and all the people that are perishing over there? I'd love to get your heart on that.
It breaks God's heart.
Breaks God's heart.
It breaks God's heart because there are people that are evildoers that are in every war. There are people that are evildoers. There's a right and there's a wrong, and there are people that initiate evil. And I think what is happening in Gaza right now is the result, in large part. Number one, war is hell. We live in a fallen world. Wars are necessary. It's unfortunate and it's terrible because these are real people, real children, real women, real elderly, real people that just desire peace that are being caught in the crossfire. But when you step back at war, if you try to analyze war through clean black and white lines, you'll get hung up every single time. You have to look at war through the complexities of war. And here's the reality is right now, Israel is conducting, according to military history out of West Point, one of the leaders of one of the greatest historians of war tactics and war history, at least last year, when he was analyzing what's taking place in Gaza, he says, Israel is conducting one of the most moral war campaigns in military history. They are dropping leaflets, they're making phone calls, sending text messages, using espionage to tell the citizens of Gaza long beforehand when strikes are going to take place. Hamas, on the other hand, Hamas and Islamic Jihad and Fatah and even some of these splinter groups and even some of the civilians who have been radicalized by 60 years of propaganda and control by groups like the PLO and now Hamas. And they've been radicalized multi-generation to hate Jews, to think that the highest call in their life is to raise their kids to be martyrs, to kill Jews. What's happened is they're using peace-loving civilians to be human shields, knowing that it will produce international sympathy when there is mass killing. The other thing is Hamas is the one giving statistics about what's taking place in Gaza. Well, Hamas doesn't wear uniforms. And so it's impossible for us to tell who's a civilian, who's actually an official Hamas, card-carrying member of Hamas. It doesn't work that way. And then they're identifying children fatalities. Well, if you're under 18 years old, it's considered a child fatality. They're using their children because they've been radicalized and they're bringing them in. They're not feeding their people, even though they've got resources. Israel has allowed 105 million tons of food into Gaza to be distributed, but yet Hamas takes it and uses it as a leverage point. They've set up their military bases in hospitals, mosques, in schools and apartment complexes where they know there are civilians. They took billions and billions of dollars of international aid that they could have built Gaza into one of the Singapore of the Middle East. And instead, they built billions of dollars worth of tunnels in which right now they are hiding hostages and hostage bodies. Israel has come to the table multiple times to negotiate ceasefires. Hamas and the Palestinians have violated those ceasefires. They have continued to send in terrorist attacks across the borders into Israel and refuse to give the bodies of hostages up, and in fact won't even allow the Red Cross to visit them. And they've released video proofs of lives of starving hostages in the tunnels. So when you have a situation like that, and then you also have a very powerful military like Israel has, and Israel has gone in, they could have wiped that place out in a week. But the fact that they haven't, and they're engaged in what's called urban warfare, it's terrible. And you ask, what does God think about it? God's not up in heaven waving an Israeli flag and saying, good. His heart breaks for it.
Yeah.
Jesus is called the Prince of Peace.
Yeah.
He's called the Prince of Peace. And ultimately, that's what he wants. But what do you do when you have evildoers who are doing what they're doing in Gaza? Well, you have to meet force with force. And it's the unfortunate reality of the place that we're in. Today, if Hamas would in good faith come forward and negotiate a ceasefire, would negotiate peace talks, Israel would lay down their arms and we would recoup. But they refuse to do that. And Israel has no choice but to defend himself because it's an existential fight.
Yeah.
And one last thing, Hamas has said publicly, this was their goal. On October the 7th, 2023, when they invaded on that morning, one of the high holy days of Israel in the middle of Shabbat, and they went into these kibbutzes and the Nova Music Festival and attacked them, they have said publicly their goal was not to defeat Israel. They knew they couldn't happen. Their goal was to draw Israel into Gaza so that they could garner international favor. This was their goal. That's how diabolical it was. They knew that their own people would be killed as a result of this, and that was their goal in order to garner international favor.
Guys, this is incredible stuff. It's important. Thank you for taking the time to talk about very weighty things in a way that I really believe honors God. And thank all of you for watching today. If you want to know more about these issues, learn more about God's heart for Israel, you can check out Scott's ministry, Together for Israel, togetherforisrael.org, or you can go to Pastor Lee Cummings' church, radiant.church. Find his new book, Why Israel Matters, and we would love to hear from you what you think about these things.